Right, I'm going to get started. So first of all, just wanted to thank everyone for giving up their time at 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon to join us on this webinar today. Today we're obviously talking to the NHS Trusts, and we're going to be focusing and introducing one of our trusted partners, Armis. So my name is Tyron. I'm the sales manager at CSTEM, and today we're going to be talking around agent device visibility and detection. So CSTEM stands for Systems Plus Techniques equals Effective Management. And we are an expert solution delivery partner for many leading organizations. We focus our tailored technology and service business outcomes. We've built purpose processes to help organizations confidently match and evidence the fit. And we have successfully deployed to the NHS Trust. But not only have we deployed to them, we have helped them, we've helped them achieve objectives, but also realize extended value outcomes. With this proven process, we have been working closely with the ICS groups to help establish common forms of communicating and reporting risks. Before you leave today, our main aim is to ensure that you have a clear understanding of who we are, what we do, where we fit, and the benefits of working for us. We are running some polls today, and I'd like to take this opportunity to get everyone involved. We're going to be posting some questions, and I'd like to start with the first poll now, if everyone's ready. The first question is, do you have regular communications with your peers within your industry community to discuss common problems, challenges, and best practice? I'll give you a bit of time just to answer that. Perfect. We as CSTEM have now been working with NHS Trusts and in other industries as well. And we have identified that every organization is on a digital transformation journey and have set out digital strategies. Now, some organizations and trusts are more mature than others, but regardless of what stage of the journey you're on, everyone has the same common goal, and that is to modernize architecture without compromising acceptable risk appetite in detection, compliance, and response capabilities that can hinder the delivery of these strategic goals. We keep it quite simple, and our main aims is to increase your efficiency, your productivity, help you reduce time and effort, but most importantly, cost as well, which is key for the NHS. Where we fit as CSTEM, we are complementary to your services and your technology. We fully leverage value from existing technology. We help bridge the gap between your actual and target effectiveness, and we also help you avoid tech clash. How we do this is by our smart services and toolkits, and Armis is a key partner in this area for us. Moving on to our next poll question. I hope everyone's ready. The key is, when introducing new technology to improve business outcomes, how important is maximizing value from existing technology? Is this high, medium, low, or not at all? I'll jump on to the next one if everyone's answered. Brilliant. So with CSTEM, we have built a proven approach that works and has been adopted by many organizations. This helps organizations and trusts more easily and confidently qualify the successful implementation of technology aligned to the delivery of strategic outcomes, not just the features and functionalities. We diagnose before we prescribe. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties there, apologies. Yeah, as I was saying, we diagnose before we prescribe, and we help you guys avoid redundant investments. We also help you realize ongoing and sustainable value by reducing the overhead and the resources to manage risk. And all of this will improve and simplify stakeholder communication and reporting. Working with Armis and working in the NHS, there's been 5 top concerns that the customers we engage with have identified. Key thing for them is patient safety. This really relates to the medical devices now tracking patient data, even administrating care. There's a huge concern about ensuring these devices are not hacked or compromised. Disruption. When medical devices go down, productivity and revenue generating capabilities also go down. Data breaches. Theft of personal information, financial information, and healthcare records is still a major concern for every healthcare organization we talk to. The inventory. Everyone wants to know, how many devices do we have? They want to have a full asset inventory, along with where are they? This is still a growing concern for the NHS. Utilization. Idle devices aren't delivering healthcare. HDOs want the visibility into the utilization of these devices throughout their organization, and we can help with that. I want to know if these are concerns for you as well. It's time for one of the poll questions again. Apologies. I hope you guys are ready for this one. This is multiple choice, so you are able to select more than one. But based on the use case shown, which use case are a priority for you, relevant to your organization? And as I said, you can choose one or all of them. Brilliant. I'll move on to the next. Working with Armis, Armis has found many stories along the way when dealing with healthcare. They have seen MRI scans, communicating with control in Russia. We've seen infusion pumps compromised by malware, and we've seen medical crash cards being used to access Facebook. And all of this has just been from conversations that Armis has had in the healthcare sector. And these stories are growing as they have more visibility and they start seeing more. If you'd like to find out a bit more about these stories, use cases, as we finish the webinar today and have further conversations with you, please raise this and we will go through all of them with you in a bit more detail. Before handing over to my colleague Anthony at Armis, I'm going to finish off with a final poll question. It's just a short question. The question is, sorry, I don't know if it's popped up yet. The question is, how confident are you in reporting an up-to-date cyber posture of all connected digital assets at any given time? Totally, reasonably, not at all. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Anthony, who's going to be running through a demo, how Armis works, some cool functions and reporting that it does. So without further ado, Anthony.
Excellent. Thank you, Tyrone. A quick hand up if just to make sure you can hear me okay. Or yes, will do. Can you hear me fine?
Yep, I can hear you.
Perfect. Oh, I see the hands up as well. I was hiding the chat window. Thanks all. It wouldn't be the first time presenters have forgotten to ask that question. So my name is Anthony Smith, Solution Architect at Armis. I've been working closely with CSTEM for a number of years now on obviously these webinars, but also on both understanding the customer needs, which something CSTEM are very good at, and then framing the offering and helping them with deployment various NHS trusts. So let's move into a few slides, and then I'm going to go through and show you what the data looks like. So go and have a look at a demo. So there's been a massive transformation in the number of connected devices at organizations, as this chart shows. So if we follow the bar graph over the last 10 years, we can see the acceleration in growth of connected devices, with over 25+ billion expected globally by 2021. And up to 90% of these devices are unmanaged devices. And these devices, they're serving a wide range of functions. So they include industrial control systems, medical devices, security cameras, smart lighting, and many others we can see listed. And they're not designed with security or management in mind. So they increase the risk of organizations, both for cybersecurity and for business continuity. And they can't be protected like traditional devices. You can't just install endpoint security or vulnerability management agents on them. And you can't go running active scans either. That's a risk to medical technology and medical VLANs, as I'm sure you know. But this enormous growth in these new devices has not gone unnoticed by bad actors. It's opened up a much larger attack surface at organizations, and those bad actors are exploiting this. So how do we, as an industry, address this problem? Well, it has always started with visibility. When you look at any cyber framework, that's the first pillar of all of them. So whether that's NIST, which calls out identifiers, its first pillar, CIS, so the Center for Internet Security Controls, we just published, recently published a new version, has control number 1, inventory and control of hardware assets. Visibility starts with knowing what's connected to your organization. But the problem we've all lived with for really decades, but it's really accelerated over the last, say, 10 years, is knowing what devices are really connected to your network. We don't live in a world where there's desktops and laptops anymore. Everything's being connected. So how does Armis look to address that issue? So what can we do to solve this problem? We'll start with a few kind of snapshot sound bites of what Armis is. So Armis is an agentless device security platform. So agentless being the key, and we listen passively as well. So we don't use any endpoint agents. It makes us very simple to deploy. And we're passive, and we're providing continuous monitoring. So we're not just a point in time, once a week scan. Because we're listening to network traffic, we're always up to date. You can break Armis down into 3 functional categories. So discover all assets, identify risks and gaps, and automate enforcement. If we start with asset inventory, so discover all assets, Armis will give your organization real-time asset inventory. So it will discover and identify all the devices connected to your organization, be those managed or unmanaged, wired and wireless. So everything from a corporate desktop to a Wi-Fi connected drone, from a PLC sensor to an MRI scanner. Of course, the context is everything as well. And Armis provides a full understanding of device context. So that includes make, model, operating system, version, applications, vulnerabilities, activities, what activities are doing on the network, risks, and everything you need for proactive security, everything you need to figure out the device-based risk at your organization. The immediate access to this kind of context is critical visibility that can enable your security teams to respond to alerts faster. You can make better informed decisions. A great example of this would be enabling a SOC analyst to immediately find out what actual device and IP address maps to, because that's quite tough to do and can take SOCs anywhere from hours to days, depending on the resources they have, what information they have. But with Armis, you can answer that question immediately. So let's talk about risk management. So where we say identify risks and gaps. So Armis will track device behavior, and it will compare that behavior to what is normal for that device and what is normal in your environment. So anomalies are detected and alerted on. You can build policies to look for defined device behavior in your environment and take specific actions. Raise a service ticket. You could isolate a risky device. So you could send an email to a service desk of your choice, or we have API integrations as well. So for threat detection, we use a combination of open source threat intel, and we have our own threat researchers and R&D to generate threat alerts and provide risk scoring, which Armis called risk factors. We can also pull together multiple vulnerability databases, security bulletins, ICS certs, FDA advisories, the US Medical Board, and other device intel. So that helps us answer questions about risks and what are the risks I should know about for my devices. And finally, response. So how are we going to respond? So the automate enforcement piece. So we can integrate with existing network and security tools and automate actions. We can so really act as an orchestrator. I will say, often I get asked this question, can we do this? We can do this via policy. We could segregate a device onto a VLAN. So I do get asked this, but which we can do. But then when I ask the question back, which is in a medical environment, are you actually going to automate the removal of an IP address or a device from the network? The answer is always no, because patient safety always comes first, and you need the context. You need someone to know, even if a device is infected, infusion pump connected to a patient, then you can't just turn that off. So we have the capability. I've yet to see anyone use it. It could be that you isolate a laptop in a boardroom or something that you deem safer. Okay, so let's talk about how we do this. So how does Armis deploy? So we can see here this diagram representing a simplified version of a network, really just a logical view. Armis is broken down here into two components, the collector and the Armis cloud. So very simple to deploy, no agents. The collector, or it could be more than one collector, as NHS Trusts will have multiple hospital buildings, have a core network switch potentially in more than one site. So we would plug a collector into that core. We would take a port mirror feed, so in Cisco speaker span, a network tap. So we're passively going to listen to the network traffic. And we will build a picture starting with a collector. So the collector will run about 8,000 rules, and those rules will create metadata. That metadata is shared up to the Armis cloud. So that IP connection information, user agent string, no packet content. So no data content is taken from, or data payload is taken from an Ethernet packet. So we're not an email security gateway or web URL proxy. Those use other solutions for that. We're interested in understanding what the device is. So we could take a DHCP request packet, and that would be enough to identify what the device is. We want to see what behavior it's doing, where is it going to, then obviously we're going to want more, such as DNS requests and IP connections from a source to a destination to monitor behavior. We also want to be able to plug into the switch to match MAC address and IP address, and we want to be able to query wireless LAN controllers so that we can see what the device is doing. So when we look down here, we can see these access points represented. We can see what are those access points seeing in your airspace. The data, the metadata that the collector builds, the collector runs about 8,000 rules and builds that picture. That metadata is then shared with the Armis cloud. Ratio of data in to data out is about 10,000 in to 1 out. And then we run all the intelligence really runs in the Armis cloud. So this would be a tenant for you running EU. And the first thing we would do is match that device based on its behavior to our giant crowdsource device behavior catalog. We also run our threat intelligence in the cloud, analyzing the data that we see so that we can then assign risk and run any policies. So on top of those network-based integrations, we can also integrate with any additional solutions you will have in your environment. A popular one I see with NHS Trusts or emerging is in Microsoft Intune. So just to use an example, so we can integrate with that for providing additional attributes based on MDM type of device management tools. We can integrate with endpoint management or antivirus tools of your choice and use that to furnish additional attribute information. Integrate with sign-on, so things like Okta. Also integrate with firewalls and with switches if you decided you wanted to start not just reading but also writing ACL updates to switches. So how do we classify devices? We've talked a lot about data sources. So where do we get the data from, be that network and via integrations to other solutions? Let's talk about device attributes. So we break those down into three types: physical, network, and behavior. So of course, we're going to start with MAC address. We're also going to look for any additional information about that device that's shared. We want to look at what type of network protocol is being used, and we're going to look at the behavior. So the network behavior, IP addresses, destinations, where is traffic patterns, or where is a device connecting to, how often is it connecting to. We then run that through our classification engine, so physical network behavior, to profile that device and match it to a device profile. Before I go and talk about the device behavior catalog, let me just show you some examples of the kind of protocols that we're talking about. So we look here, key focus is going to be on medical. So DICOM HL7, widely used in your network, in medical networks. What is also interesting, what we've seen is healthcare is the only space that spans across the three device disciplines, so which we would call corporate IT, so laptops, industrial, so robotic arms manufacturing, and medical, MRI scanners, X-ray scanners. Now, healthcare, we've seen in the years I've been doing this, device types from all three. Of course, you're going to have admin departments, you have traditional laptops and those kinds of devices, you have printers. Everyone does. And of course, you have medical devices, a lot of them. But interestingly, we discovered that you also have what would be classified as industrial or OT engineering devices, some of them as well, because you have heavy equipment to store, you have building management, so BACnet, you have potentially cranes lifting up ambulances and MRI scanners, you have heavy doors which have motors driving them. It was not something that we particularly thought about, but it's interesting to observe. And the reason that I bring this up is the Armis device knowledge base and the scale of it matters. So if you're going to choose a solution to solve the device visibility problem, then you will see that there are some players who are specializing potentially in just medical or potentially in just industrial. Armis has specialist teams operating across all three disciplines, so whether that's corporate IT, industrial, and medical, which is particularly important for healthcare because we're seeing all of those types of devices in your environment. We have beyond 600 million now, getting on for 1 billion devices tracked in the device knowledge base. And think of this cloud as a giant crowdsourced device behavior catalog. And what really matters is the device profiles. So those device profiles will match to a specific, let's say a specific X-ray scanner or a specific MRI scanner or a specific type of smart TV. This is the largest device knowledge base of its type in the industry. So, okay, let me now go in and have a look at some data, an actual console, so we can show you the data. So we can see here, we have this console view. Along here we have some some high-level numbers, some KPIs showing us number of devices that we've seen, some high-risk devices, and a risk to Armis is something that we deem potential risk and something of interest. Doesn't mean it is high risk in your environment. So things like SMB v1 being shared, of course, that's how WannaCry was spread, file and print sharing. That will flag as a risk, something you should be aware of, but probably because with older devices, particularly medical devices, we're in older OSs, you can't upgrade them, or certainly not the OS, so you have to live with that. So you've probably got that handled with ACLs and with firewall and network segmentation. But so that's where that context matters. So we're not saying, right, you should immediately jump on all of these and think that these are all a problem. This is about identifying potential gaps and risks of interest for you and doing that automatically all of the time. Threat activity, so what are the types of activities that potential threat here, so we can see when we detect bad behavior in a device, that will be immediately surfaced for you. You can quickly, everything you can see here, I can click on it, will generate a search for me up in the search bar. All of this information, which I'm going to go through, is generated automatically and you can handle with alerts and policy. You do not need to drive this the way I am. I am going through this process as it's a demo to show it to you. I mention that as often if I'm doing this in smaller groups, I'll get that question. We would not expect you to use this in a manual way. It would be automated. But to show you the potential, obviously I have to click on things. So unhandled alerts. So here we can see these alerts have been raised. They could be forwarded via syslog to a SIM of your choice as well. They do not have to be handled in here, or you can handle them in here. And you can see where you are, and we'll have a look at alerts shortly. Let's start with these dashboards. So we've a number of dashboards that we've built for the purpose of showing you what can be done. This could be something much more relevant to your context. So DSPT dashboard or some other type of monitoring, for example. So here we start with an asset management view, devices organized by what Armis calls data source. So that could be network. It could be SCCM. We can see vCenter. Of course, plenty of NHS Trusts I've worked with have both of those, and that could be a data source for us or for Armis. And we've broken these down into some other different example types, which are relevant from an asset management point of view. Each of these dashboards, think of them as a report, and on each of these reports is a dashlet, which you can add more to, or you can edit what is there. So if we go edit, you can specify the graphic which most suits the data that you're showing, and you can organize how you summarize that data. So how are you showing it? And of course, you could just click on this. That would automatically generate the search for me and bring back the relevant itinerary of all of those devices, which I will go into shortly. The other interesting one on here for this audience is this medical device dashboard. So we can see here a fairly generic view of some potential dashlets of interest in a medical environment. So medical devices broken down by type. So infusion pump, patient monitor. I could click on these, so infusion pumps, and start to view automatically. That's pulled out in this environment, those 19 infusion pumps. There are other ways that I can get to that information. Along with, so medical device utilization by type, how are these being used? This is to give you a sense of how you can generate these reports, which are continuously updated. So let's go now and take an inventory view. So I'm going to notice this boundary setting. So this allows me to focus the data on particular parts of the network. So these will be something that you, based on how you design your network, and you'll have given it some kind of meaningful name. X-ray department, pediatrics, whatever, different departments, and therefore VLANs, or it could be as simple as VLAN 1, VLAN 2, VLAN 3. I've seen both of those conventions used at various hospitals. So I'm going to select medical in this data set, and we can see here 98 devices, broken the devices down by a list. I'm going to use this view. So this is a nice, simple way of representing the data. We can see immediately exactly what type Armis has categorized it as, and let me go and select here X-ray scanners. So everything I'm clicking on, notice it's building out for me these searches. I could also build out custom search myself. I'll come back to that. So here we've got these 3 X-ray scanner, these 3 devices. We can see there's some risk associated. We'll look at that shortly. What is the name of the device? Data source, so that magnifying glass to Armis represents network integration. So that's passively listening to network traffic. Categorize it as medical. It's an X-ray, the model, brand, MAC address, IP address, site, and some relevant tags. So you can tag all of these devices in Armis. Some of it's automatic and by policy, or you could also tag it manually. So if there was something of interest you wanted to note and maybe work on later, you could add a manual tag to it, which we can see here. So if we look at this ortho X-ray scanner, we can see operating system, we can see some tags, and I could add a tag there, point of interest or POI or something, or watch list if I was intrigued by what a device is doing, but I didn't want to take it off the network. And I raise this as this is the way that we often use this, and I've worked for SIM vendors and worked in SOCs, and certainly that's how security analysts will work. So we minimize that simple information card. We can see specific inventory information and where relevant. We'll look at a laptop shortly, which is enhanced with additional attribute information out of EDR tool. You'll see, or VMware, where there's VMware is relevant, you would see that information, those attributes added to identifiable profile. I can also select these 3 dots here and say, well, okay, that's interesting. Show me all the medical devices, or show me all of the mini C-arm devices. Basically generate a search based on that, and that search would then apply up there. All of this is about making this product easier for you to navigate, easier for you to use, and quicker to get answers out of. So the 2 lowest level components in Armis are MAC address and activities. So these are typically network activities, but not always. It could be if we've seen a vulnerability, we'll also associate that as an activity in here. In this case, we can see a medical image, so we can see lots of scans done. We can also see PHI traffic, note unencrypted. We could see, so because we were looking DICOM traffic, we can see that if this device was connecting, and I say this, Tyrone mentioned it as well, MRI scanner, we've seen at the weekend at a hospital in the US making connections to YouTube. So Windows-based, someone, it's not malicious behavior, but it's clearly a governance issue and probably education required. That information, that kind of information is critical to allowing you to close those gaps and manage good governance in the organization. Utilization. So we were asked by a customer if we could open the DICOM traffic and see which body part this particular haze scanner was configured to show. We said, well, okay, that's not a security question, but probably we can. Why would you want that? And they said it would help them with patient throughput, with processes in the hospital. So we're able to do that. So now we're able to show device utilization and exactly what are those devices being used to do, which is very useful for processing patients through the hospital. Vulnerabilities, so passively scanning a device, because we know hardware, operating system and applications, we're able to put together the list of potential CVEs and vulnerabilities. So we then go through a matching process, which we've built over the last year, to tune down the noise and focus those CVEs on the most relevant to that device. So that's quite hard to do passively. If you do it actively with an active scan, say on a Windows machine, you can query the registry. You can't do that with medical devices, it's too risky. Risk factors. So talked about, you'll remember there's 2,500 risks. So risk factors are Armis's view of the risks that you need to know about that apply to a device. So we can see here things like SMBV1, invalid certificate, so probably expired. These are, this is not, we're not saying that there's malware on this device, but we're saying that there is a potential risk, a gap here that you need to know about, and maybe you want to close. And you can find that information quickly and easily. We can also see any applications running on this device. So let's go and have a look at a different device type. I'm going to change the boundaries We're going to go for corporate and we'll look for a computer. So let's pick this one here. And we can see that this MacBook, we're getting data from this from a couple of different sources. So we've got network source, traffic inspection, Jamf is a Apple device management, MDM, CrowdStrike agent running on here, which we're API to API, so cloud to cloud information. You can see the same type of information we saw for the X-ray scanner site, what network device last saw it. We can see additional information represented here because we're getting additional sources. So we've enhanced the device data with that in here as well. We can look at activities. So what is this device doing on the network? So DNS queries, for example, for Microsoft.com, that's clearly acceptable. But if it was to some other risky domain, then we would flag that. You would be able to see that. We've listed the relevant vulnerabilities for this device, any relevant risk factors, and applications. So what applications are we seeing, the network applications seeing run on this device? So that type of visibility and having that level of information allows us to ask interesting questions quickly. So we could say, show me all of the operating systems in my environment and aggregate the devices and link them to those operating systems. So we can see those here. I could then ask a similar but slightly different question. So applications, show me the applications by version number, aggregate the devices. So that's useful, but a little bit blunt. Let's be a bit cleverer. So let's start with devices. Then let's go for, so these are high-level entities, what Armis calls high-level entities. So we're going to say device as high level, going to link it to operating systems as a high-level entity, and operating systems with the name of Windows. And then we're going to link to another high-level entity of applications with a name of CrowdStrike, because that is the endpoint protection tool of choice in this data set. And I'm going to request that search. So that's now showing me all of the devices running Windows and running CrowdStrike, which is interesting, but what will be more useful is to negate that and show me the devices running Windows which are not running CrowdStrike or my ADR. So show me the gap. That's a gap that I need to solve. And you would then look at those devices and try and understand why were they not running CrowdStrike, and immediately able to export that data as well, and take that with you and try and understand, okay, who was the owner, what's the name, what's the IP address, and fix that. We can show, so let's start with policies. So you can build your own policy. So this kind of information you can build. There are standard policies and anomaly detection policies that are rolled out with Armis. You can also write your own custom policies and have those generate an alert. And then you can go into the alert section and manage the alerts in here. So if we look at this one, for example, click on that, we have a simple information card presented where you have some information about the threat, the potential cause, what's the victim machine, any other potentially affected devices listed here, the previous alert history, and some choices. You could take an action from here if you wanted to orchestrate the response directly from Armis. That covers everything I wanted to cover. Thank you very much for listening. I'll stop now and take any Q&A.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Appreciate giving a good overview of Armis, the product, what it does. I think we'll start seeing some questions come in now.
I do have one from Paul. How easy is Armis to deploy across multiple sites? So Armis is very simple to deploy, deliberately so by design. There are no agents required. We can, of course, integrate with existing solutions which may have an agent, but we don't need to. We to go back to use this, we use a collector, which is a passive device that will listen on the network. We support multiple collectors. It could be in a 3-site hospital, 3-site NHS Trust. There are 3 collectors, one plugged into the core network of each hospital. And then those collectors are linked back to the tenant, which gives us a global view for that organisation.
Excellent. Thanks, Anthony. I'll just give it another minute in case there's any other questions that come in. Just while we've got Anthony, I think it's a good opportunity to answer the questions, ask the questions so we can get them answered. If not, our team will be following up with all of you to have further conversations, and then those next steps will have Anthony on board as well. So any questions that do pop up after the webinar, please feel free to get in touch, and then we can definitely answer them for you at a later stage. Just gonna jump back onto my screen, so just let me know when you guys can see all of that.
Yeah, all good.
Brilliant. I know our team's had time to review the polls, get the data, so be a good opportunity just to bring up those results. So the first question was, do you have regular communications with your peers and your communities to discuss the common problems? And out of everyone that answered, 100% said yes, which is good. As you know, at CSTEM, we want to take a communicative approach. Obviously, we know people share common challenges and they've already trodden the path. So we are able to kind of find the variants and help you guys overcome those challenges. On to the next one. So when introducing new technology to improve business outcomes, how important is maximizing value from existing technology? So 67% of the attendees said that, yes, it's a high priority. And 33% said, yes, it's a medium priority. Then the last one. So based on the user cases that we had in the slide, and the slides will be shared, which are the priority for you and relevant to your organization? For patient safety, it was 100% of you. Disruption was 40%. Data breaches was 60%. Device utilization, that was 20%. Inventory management was 60%. And no one chose exposure. So it'd be interesting to have further conversations understanding why no one chose exposure. Just to kind of finish off, as you can see, Armis has multiple use cases and they cover, 5 key areas with patient safety, the disruption, data breaches, inventories, utilization. And all these cases are relevant in the NHS, and it's definitely an opportunity for us to have conversations with yourselves who's attended today and signed up, because these are common conversations we're having. And Armis has definitely shown that it mitigates a lot of challenges that we see in the NHS face. And also with the DSPT reiteration 2021, Armis plays a key part in that, and it helps you towards that compliance you guys are needed. So in the beginning, I spoke about proven processes, and people are on different stages of their journey. Some of you, it's the first time you've heard of CSTEM or spoken to CSTEM. So it's an early stage for you. You wanted to hear about us, the journey that you can go on with us as an organization, find out more about the products and services we offer. A lot of you are also in that position where you're already engaged with conversations with us. You wanted to use this opportunity to showcase your team's the qualification, the technical fit, and looking potentially at moving forwards with proof of value exercises where we can define those success criteria for you. And there's also NHS Trusts that signed up that are a bit further on in their journey. And this was how this webinar today was utilized for them to help build that business case, so that they can take it to their boards and get sign off for the projects to move forwards. So regardless, as you can see, where you are on your journey, CSTEM will work with you and your teams to support you on this journey and enable you guys with the tools and technology you need to have successful business outcomes. We've answered questions as we've gone along, and I know Anthony answered a lot of questions within his presentation from showing what the product can do. But if there is any questions, I will just leave it here for maybe 30 seconds just to see if anyone's thought of any further questions while I've been speaking. Excellent, thank you. Yeah, just to finish, I just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time. I appreciate it towards the end of the day for everyone. If you enjoyed the webinar and you've got further questions, we will be in touch, but I appreciate you giving us a bit of your time. Also, please do not hesitate to go onto our social medias, obviously on LinkedIn. Please like and follow our pages. Our team will be posting a lot of relevant content there. Have a lovely evening, and thank you very much for your time.